The methods to gain space. Now, space can be gained either by non-extraction methods, extraction methods, and surgical methods. We have proximal stripping, arch expansion, molar teeth distalization, uprighting of teeth, derotation of posterior teeth, and proclination of anterior teeth. Extractions, yes, we have the balancing extractions, compensating extractions, phased extractions, Wilkinson's extractions, and therapeutic extractions, which are used whenever we are doing our orthodontic treatment. And surgical, yes, orthognathic and distraction osteogenesis. Just a single slide on each of the different methods of gaining space. Proximal stripping or proximal reduction. The indications are when the space requirement is minimal, it is about 0 to 2 millimeters. In cases where the Bolton analysis only shows mild tooth excess, tooth material excess. In mandibular arch, sometimes as an aid of retention so that the crowding does not come in again. Contraindications, young patients, pulp chamber not well developed, patients who are susceptible to caries or patients with enamel hyperplasia and poor oral hygiene are a big contraindication to proximal stripping. Now, the advantages of proximal stripping is it avoids extraction in borderline cases, it helps to achieve a better interdigitation, it helps to broaden the contact to attain a better stability of our treatment results, and localized malocclusion can be corrected or you may get sensitivity because of interproximal reduction, caries susceptibility in cases where the patient is not able to maintain good oral hygiene. Sometimes if you have not done your proximal reduction properly, you may have food lodgement or roughened enamel surface. Second method is distalization. General indications are straight profile, normal temporomandibular molars. It can be done with an extraoral appliance or an intraoral appliance. Extraoral appliance as headgear and intraoral appliance as pendulum. And one more case that Madam showed you was with a distalizing appliance like a Jones stick. Next is the uprighting of the molars. Generally, a premature loss of deciduous second molars can cause tipping of molars, which generally occupy more space. The uprighting can be done with the help of an uprighting spring, or you can use a space regainer that you use generally in periodontics and still can do uprighting and gain the space. Now, rotated teeth occupy generally more space than a normally placed posterior teeth. So, whenever we derotate the posterior teeth, we gain some space. Generally, rotations can be corrected and it is best achieved with fixed appliance, generally incorporating a spring or an elastic, and whenever you use a force couple. Proclination of retroinclined anterior teeth. Yes, whenever we procline the anterior teeth, it results in gain of arch length and therefore we gain space to correct our malocclusion. This is usually indicated whenever the teeth are retroclined. In cases when the anteriors will not affect the profile of the patient, and proclination can definitely be done with a Z spring or a T spring. Coming to extraction, painless removal of teeth from its socket is termed as extraction. Extractions in orthodontics include the serial extractions that are done during the mixed dentition period and therapeutic extractions that are done for gaining space. What are the indications? To provide space to align the remaining teeth in case of severe crowding, and to allow teeth to be moved, usually incisors to be retracted so that protrusion could be reduced, or skeletal class 2 or skeletal class 3 problems can be camouflaged. Coming to the choice of teeth for extraction, it all depends upon the amount of arch length, tooth material discrepancy that we have, the direction and the amount of jaw growth, the facial profile, the state and the position of the teeth also plays a very important role. I'm just giving some indications of the different extractions that are being done, that can be done in orthodontics. The first premolar extractions are most commonly done for orthodontic treatment. Its location is very good because the space gained by the extraction can be used for correction both in the anterior and posterior region, and we can maintain a good satisfactory contact between the canine and the second premolar. Second premolar extractions are generally done to treat mild anterior crowding. Anchorage of the anterior segment can be strengthened because now you can also include your first premolar in the anterior segment. Mesial movement of the posterior teeth to close extra space after correction of the mild anterior crowding. In case of unfavorably impacted second molar, we go in for extraction of that. In case of open bites, second premolar extractions are always preferred over the first premolars because we generally get some amount of deepening of the bite as we go distally in the arch, which will help in open bite cases. First molar extractions are generally not done, not advisable unless it is carious beyond restoration. The RC treated is not done properly, so it is better to extract than rather than a perfectly good premolar. If it is a multi-filled tooth, or if you have done a premature extraction of 6 earlier, they may on the other side consideration. Sometimes you come across a patient where you have a large chin button and a prominent nose. In such cases, we would like to prefer to extract as much as posterior as possible, because that will help us to maintain the facial profile. Incisor extraction is rarely indicated unless there is an unfavorable position of the upper incisors, lingually blocked or buccally blocked lateral incisors, or canines congenitally missing lateral incisor on one side, so you will go ahead and extract the other side. Mandibular incisors are only of therapeutic value. First sign of incipient malocclusion you could extract, but it is difficult to treat, and hence because they relapse very easily, and hence it is generally not extracted. Other extractions that you need to know about is the Wilkinson's extraction, which is the extraction of all the first molars, the balancing extractions, which is the removal of another tooth on the opposite side of the same arch, asymmetric extractions, compensating extractions refers to the extraction of the teeth in opposite arch, and serial extractions. Now, what is a serial extraction? It is an interceptive procedure. It is a planned extraction of certain deciduous teeth and later specific permanent teeth in an orderly sequence and a predetermined manner to guide the erupting permanent teeth in a more favorable position. Hence, it is also known as guidance of eruption. Now, what are the indications? Arch length, tooth size discrepancy, absence of physiological spacing, class 1 malocclusion with skeletal harmony, marked crowding or irregular teeth, growth is just not enough to overcome the discrepancy, patients with straight profile and a pleasing appearance, yes, indicated for serial extraction. Contraindications are class 2 and class 3 malocclusion with skeletal abnormalities, space dentition, when you have a missing teeth, when you have a severe deep bite or open bite, and in midline diastema cases, it is not indicated. Briefly, serial extraction, the methods are of 3 types: Duell's method, Nance method, and Tweed's method. In Duell's method, he goes on with the extraction of the deciduous canine, deciduous first molar, and then the permanent first premolar. In Tweed's method, he goes ahead with the extraction of D, 4, and C. And Nance method is similar to that of Tweed's method, where he again uses the same formula of the extraction of D, 4, and C. Coming to another important aspect of methods of gaining space is expansion. Now, expansion can basically be of 2 types. Slow expansion, where it can be either fixed, for example, a W arch, a quad helix, an iti arch wire, or it could be removable, for example, a coffin spring, an expansion screw, a functional appliance, and a rapid expansion could be fixed, for example, a tooth-borne appliance like Isaacson appliance and a Hyrex appliance, or it could be a tooth and tissue-borne type, for example, a Haas appliance and a Richweiler type of rapid palatal expander. Now, what are the indications of slow expansion? Unilateral and bilateral crossbite, mild dental crowding, tongue thrusting, thumb sucking habit, which has caused contraction of the dental arches. Sometimes when you're giving a functional appliance, in order to eliminate the mandibular displacement, slow expansion device or maybe an expansion screw need to be put in the appliance, or we need to expand the maxillary arch. Contraindications are buccal and labial inclination of the teeth. It's a big no. Bone loss, if you see on the buccal aspect, then you cannot go ahead and do slow expansion. And in adults, when the growth is completed, unless you want to do only dental expansion. If we compare between the slow and rapid expansion, in slow expansion is generally dental, whereas in rapid is mainly skeletal. Rate of expansion is slow and rapid. The type of force that is involved in slow expansion is orthodontic. The adaptive changes that are generally seen is in the alveolar bone adjacent to the moving teeth. And in case of orthopedic, it is generally results in major changes occurring in the basal structures of maxilla and mandible. Now, the force used is 2 to 4 pounds of force, whereas the force used in rapid expansion is 10 to 20 pounds of force. Frequency of activation is less frequent in case of slow expansion, whereas more frequent in case of rapid palatal expansion. The type of expansion that is used, appliance that is used in slow expansion can be either removable or fixed. It is generally fixed in case of rapid expansion. Can be actually done at any age, but generally better in case of early growers. But rapid expansion has to be done before the fusion of palatal sutures. Otherwise, you will have to go ahead and do surgically assisted rapid palatal expansion. There's less chance of relapse when we are doing a slow expansion, whereas when you're doing a rapid expansion, there is more chance of relapse, and hence retention becomes very important. The other question that is asked is how much expansion. Generally, when we give a 1 quarter turn, that is a 90-degree turn, provides about 0.25 millimeters of expansion per day. 2 quarter turn definitely will give 0.5, and 1 complete turn will give about 1 millimeter because the pitch of the screw is 1 millimeter. The clinical guideline is that expand till the upper palatal cusp touches the lower buccal cusp. Since half of the expansion may be lost to the overexpansion to compensate the relapse. Coming to the effects of RME, we have different effects. We have the effects on RME on maxilla, the maxillary teeth, mandible, and the nasal cavity. On the maxilla, we have the opening of the mid-palatal sutures and downward and forward movement of the maxillary arch. On the maxillary teeth, you will generally see a midline spacing between the two maxillary central incisors. Maxillary posterior teeth will also show buccal tipping and extrusion. On the mandible, you will see downward and backward rotation of the mandible. You will see increase in face height and reduction in overbite. In the nasal cavity, you will see reduced resistance to nasal airflow and increase in the intranasal space. So sometimes, even when you have nasal stenosis, RME is indicated. Activation schedule is generally asked in exam. You have to know both of them, the TIMS as well as the Zimring and Isaacson's schedule. The TIMS said that up to 15 years, quarter turn in the morning and evening. Over 15 years, you have to give 45 degrees activation 4 times a day. Because in this age group, there's a substantial buildup of tension with pain. So a reduction in the rate of expansion is necessary. Whereas Zimring and Isaacson has given their own activation schedule, which states that in growing patients, you generally give 2 turns per day for 4 to 5 days, and later 1 turn till the desired expansion is completed. So 1 turn per day for the next 5 to 7 days, and then follow it up with 1 turn every alternate day till the extraction is over. Now, if I have to give you the indications of rapid expansion is generally used in unilateral and bilateral discrepancies, generally skeletal, class 2 malocclusions, cleft palate cases, face mask therapy, and medical indications like nasal stenosis, septal deformities, etc. Contraindications, a big no is a single tooth crossbite in uncooperative patients because maintenance of oral hygiene becomes very important. After ossification of the mid-palatal suture, unless associated with surgical procedures, in adults with skeletal asymmetry, we don't do this. Anterior open bite because the mandible grows in a downward direction and which may worsen the profile. And severe anterior, posterior, and vertical discrepancy of maxilla and mandible